Hello, this is Mr. Aaron, and today we'll be doing a crisis decision simulation. I'll also be doing a think aloud while we do the simulation, and I'll be pretending to be Harry Truman and discussing Harry Truman's decision to drop the atomic bomb. Uh, so, the standards that we'll be covering are students analyze the causes and consequences of World War II, and they discuss the human cost of the war with particular attention to the civilian and military losses in Russia, Germany, Britain, the United States, China, and Japan. But today we'll specifically be talking about Japan and Harry Truman, the United States president's decision to drop an atomic weapon on two cities in Japan. The problem, okay, it's July 1945. I'm President Harry Truman of the United States. Germany has surrendered, but Japan continues to fight. The atomic bomb has just been successfully tested. Should I use it to end the war, or is there another way? The U.S. decision to use the atomic bomb on Japan, the dilemma: use the bomb to force surrender and end the war, warn Japan first, hoping they surrender, avoid using the bomb and find another strategy. I, President Truman, will need to weigh the military, ethical, political, and human consequences. All right, let's take a look at my assumptions. As President Truman, here are three assumptions I might be making. Japan will never surrender without something super shocking happening to their country. Japan has shown from the island hopping we've been doing through the Pacific that they will fight to the last person. Well, should I use the bomb? It will save more American lives than if allies invade Japan. Or do I need to demonstrate the bomb's power because it may help in post-war negotiations with the Soviet Union? Now, are these fair assumptions? Should I challenge them? Let's take a look. All right, first I need to weigh the evidence, so let me analyze the evidence. My generals say an invasion could cost 100,000 plus to over 1 million US lives. Japan has shown willingness to fight to the last man standing. Again, to reiterate, we talked about this when in island hopping where the Japanese soldier would not surrender. They would fight to the death. And then the bomb will kill tens of thousands of Japanese civilians. I need to break down the possible paths forward as the President of the United States. So let's take a look at the five perspectives for Truman, me, to ponder. Okay, so there's a military argument. Drop the bomb immediately on a major Japanese city. The war must end as quickly as possible. And Japan shows no signs of surrender. This option saves American lives and demonstrates the bomb's power. The diplomatic argument: warn Japan first, drop a demonstration bomb on an uninhabited island, and broadcast its effects to the Japanese leadership. Give them a chance to surrender before using the weapon on civilians. Okay, now let's look at the scientist warning. Don't drop the bomb. Its use on a populated city is morally indefensible and may trigger an arms race with the Soviet Union. Japan is already weakened, and a blockade could force surrender soon. All right, number four, the political view. Drop the bomb not only to defeat Japan, but to send a message to the Soviet Union. Stalin is preparing for post-war expansion. Post-war expansion we've talked about of communism. And that's a different ideology than in the United States, a democratic republic. So a display of American strength will shape the balance of power after World War II. And finally, the humanitarian appeal, offer Japan conditional surrender. If this is accepted, there will be no need to use the bomb at all. Dropping the bomb could create civilian casualties on a scale never before seen and damage U.S. moral authority. So we have a chance of losing our moral authority if we use such a terrible weapon and we kill hundreds of thousands of civilians. So let's take a quick look and reflect on my thinking here. Notice how I, President Harry Truman, questioned my assumptions. I had certain things that I just assumed were true, and I needed to look further into those. I looked at the consequences of each action I would take: dropping the bomb, not dropping the bomb, asking Japan to surrender. And I considered various perspectives. So I went through the humanitarian perspectives, the military, the scientist perspectives, and et cetera, to look at what each professional and in each category thought about this decision, whether to drop the bomb or not on Japan. And then I stayed open to multiple solutions. I didn't just make up my mind right away and just go with the first thing that came into my head. When critical thinking, I never rush to an answer. You don't want to rush to an answer. You want to kind of think over all the possible vantage points, all the possible consequences, and come up with multiple solutions, and then kind of weigh those solutions to figure out what the best decision is. So the next thing when you're critical thinking is you always explore the problem thoroughly and then in the deepest way possible. And by going through, questioning your assumptions, looking at the consequences, considering various perspectives, staying open to multiple solutions, you are asking questions in all of those categories, and that will give you a deep way to look at the problem that you're facing. So let's go over, so what would my solution be? Because now I got to be put on the spot here. What would my solution be? And I think it would be a staggered type of, or a scaffold kind of decision making. I would first warn Japan. I'd warn Japan that we had a nuclear weapon, we had developed a nuclear weapon, and I would blockade Japan. I would wait a few weeks and to see what happens with Japan after blockading them and them understanding that we have an atomic weapon. If that didn't work, I would then demonstrate the weapon on a non-civilian or uninhabited place where very few lives will be lost, and the goal would be zero. But just to show the power of the weapon, this would also work in my favor as President Truman, because it would show the Soviet Union our strength, and it would give us more leverage at the negotiating table after World War II. Now, if Japan doesn't surrender after all of that, I would never invade Japan. I think as the President of the United States, I first have to put my people and my soldiers first and protect them first. And throughout the duration of World War II, lots of American lives were lost, lots of European lives were lost, lots of millions and millions of lives across the world were lost. So bringing this war to a quick end would probably be weighing on my mind very heavily. And then if I had to, and Japan just refused to surrender, again, I would not invade. I would drop one bomb on a military target only. It would not be in a civilian area. I would avoid any cities, anything like that. I think that is a drastic decision to bomb a city with innocent civilians or civilians. I don't know. You could judge whether they're innocent or not due to Japan's militarism. But I would try to keep it very hyper focused on a military setting, and it would be my last decision I made after trying every other option. So let's break this down. Now it's your turn to choose one of these three options. Let's relate Truman's dilemma to something today's leaders face. How do they balance civilian safety with national security? Maybe think of something like AI or drones or something like that. How do they balance the civilian safety with national security? And what do you do as a leader what would you do as a leader in a similar moral or military situation today? Tell me about that. You're a leader today, something like this happens, and you need to make a decision whether to drop a bomb or not. Especially an atomic weapon. Now we got to keep in mind that the atomic weapon was only used twice in the history of warfare. So option 2, what if Truman had chosen not to use the bomb? What if he blockaded Japan instead? Would they have surrendered? How long would it have taken? How many would have died in the meantime? Analyze what might have happened with a different decision. And when you're doing that, try to use historical clues and data to kind of strengthen your argument. Option 3, step into the shoes of an advisor. Let's say you're Harry Stimson, Secretary of War, or a Manhattan Project scientist. What advice would you give me, the president? Remember, I was playing Harry Truman. And it needs to be at least 2 paragraphs long. So use what we've discussed and show me your thinking process. The goal is not to be right. It's to think deeply about whatever option you choose. Option 1, and I've color coded these, is a real world connection. Option 2 is to analyze a solution, and option 3 is role playing the crisis. So you can take the color code and go back to the last page, and you can see that these are the same color, and you can kind of figure that out as you go. Again, choose one of the 3 paths above and submit it on Canvas. Use this presentation as a reference, and remember to think deeply. All right, thank you for your time, and I hope you guys have a great day.